gotta say, not having to hold a microphone this time and like having actual like headphones makes this experience 10 times better.
Yeah, man. When you were talking, because your elbow was on the table, it looked like you were always like making a point. Like, now see here, like
I was making a point.
you were, but like emphatically.
Yeah.
Do you want to open it? Do you want to do like
the intro? Guys, welcome to the second episode of The Cook and the Coach. I'm Baeza. I'm the coach.
I'm Kenny. I'm the cook.
Welcome to episode 2, guys.
So this week we are talking Frozen 2. We're also talking the 2010s and like looking onward to 2020 because we're going to the new year right now.
Not only new year, new decade.
And the new decade.
Crazy.
Yes. Crazy.
The Roaring 20s 2.0, as I call it.
The Roaring 20s.
I'm calling that term. I'm sticking with it.
Yes. You're definitely the first person.
I'm the only person.
The only person. So yeah, dude, Frozen 2. First off, before we even go into it, I have always loved animated movies my whole life. And some people who are like, we're like mid-20s right now, and people our age will be like, we don't watch animated movies anymore. Like, we're adults. And that drives me crazy.
I couldn't agree more.
It is the
stupidest thing.
Thank you.
Ever.
Some of them, a lot of them aren't good. But the big ones are fantastic.
Listen, only one time has Pixar ever failed me.
Okay, which one?
The Good Dinosaur. That was trash.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't good.
Yeah, don't even try to defend it.
As I said last time, anytime a movie will come in with an original idea, I always give them points for that, but it wasn't a good movie.
I did not. No, I don't care. Either it's good or it's not.
Okay, but I have more of an issue with what about Cars 2 and 3? Like, everyone said, yeah, but that's okay. So I'm saying they failed you more than once. Pixar has had a few bad ones.
Okay, I almost don't count those. In my mind, they don't even count as Pixar movies. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but they just don't.
They don't feel quite the same. I liked Cars when I was younger. It's not great, but it's decent. But then
the first one's good.
The first one's good. It's heartwarming. Yeah. It's fun. It's not the best. It was definitely like a weird left turn.
It definitely was. You know what's weird to think about though? Kind of getting back to Frozen. Mm-hmm. How there's only really been like 3 Disney animated movies that are in the same animation format as Pixar.
Which ones?
So Frozen, Tangled, and then Moana.
Yeah, they're so solid.
Oh, incredible movies.
They're so good.
Unreal. This is. I mean,
I love those.
Wait,
movies.
Tangled was the first one, right?
Tangled was first. Yeah.
Tangled ushered in, even though Frozen's way bigger than Moana and Tangled combined, but Tangled ushered in the new era of Disney.
Yeah.
Kind of, because I mean, everyone loves Pixar.
I feel like it's like the Cinderella of like that more drawn animation style.
You know what I mean? That's exactly it.
Because like no one really cares about like Snow White. It's you know what I mean. But Cinderella is what that first one where you're like, wow, this is great. This is a really solid one.
Mm-hmm. So, for those of you who don't know, me and Ken, we both love Jordan Peterson.
He's super interesting.
Super interesting guy.
Really smart.
We're going to have when we get a soundboard for the podcast, we'll definitely have a couple of Jordan Peterson quotes and references for sure.
It's absurd. Dude, there's a guy, my brother showed me this guy doing an impression of him. It was just taking him to this absurd extreme of just like comparing what he was saying to just like big dick energy and stuff like that. It was just, he was like, I benched like 250 pounds. Like, you can't do that if you're morally reprehensible.
Morally reprehensible.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, he's a really smart guy. We've definitely both watched a lot of his stuff, and he's a provocative thinker. Not everyone agrees with him, but I think he's like
understandably
totally. But I think he's like an important voice. Like he's bringing like a really well thought out perspective, which is always important, I'd say.
Absolutely. So I was watching this video of him, and he's talking about like how like Disney animated movies is basically like a religious experience.
Oh wow, interesting.
And how most Disney movies talk about the archetypes as he discusses. But like they present them in a really like really cool way, you know?
Yes.
And like when you watch people are like, oh, I'm not religious. It's like, yeah, okay, you're not religious. But you go see this Disney movie which gives you this feeling of like joy and hope and wonder, you know? I don't think people really give Frozen this credit. Like it was a phenomenon in pop culture.
I mean,
sure.
maybe people our age don't give it credit just because not like we said, not as many people our age are watching these, but parents know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they even make a joke about that in Frozen 2 of like the Let It Go song. It's like everyone knows that movie changed things. Like, and it was incredibly huge.
Absolutely. And I guess we'll just go into the actual review. So, spoilers.
Oh yeah. Again, this is a podcast where we'll spoil whatever we're talking about. Yeah. If it's in the title or you think it might be, we're going to be spoiling it.
Yeah. Just if you don't want to hear any spoilers, leave right now.
Yeah.
Anyways,
we don't want to ruin anything.
The first one, exciting.
Yep.
Like fun.
Yep.
Something newish.
Music was the first thing I was like. I went into this being like, man, I'm always like a little skeptical going into certain things like this where I'm like, okay, animation style is a little bit different. We'll see how this goes. And then the music was the first thing that got me. That I think Do You Want to Build a Snowman is like the opening song of that, right? I'm pretty sure.
No, Frozen Heart.
Is it?
When they're on ice.
Oh, you're right. They do the Frozen Heart, and that's good. And then like where they establish the characters more than they do. Do you want to Build I'm like, wow, this is actually really good. And then like the storm of like when their parents die, like just you see like the grandiose of like the waves and everything, and it just looks incredibly real.
Great animation,
but also like artistic. Like it doesn't just look like an actual depiction, and there's like little bits in there,
Yeah.
Then at that point I was like, okay, I'm in. I think I'm in.
Another soundboard.
We need to get on the soundboard.
That's a joke we'll talk about some other time.
Deep cut, but yes.
Deep cut in our friendship, but yes.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, so that I think I'm pretty sure I shed a tear like within the first 5 minutes of that movie, like in the theater. I loved that movie immediately.
Also, who would have thought that Kristen Bell could sing?
Man. Dude,
she can sing.
She's a powerhouse.
She sounds great.
She's incredible.
She sounds great.
Dude, yeah, I would just started watching The Good Place reluctantly because I was all my siblings were like, oh, it's so good, it's so good. I was like, okay, and then I started watching it. The cast is incredible. The jokes are so good. Like they're so well written. She's incredible in that. She can act. She can sing. Like, and she like can do like voice acting, which I feel like has got to be a little bit different of an approach. Like, it's just amazing.
Oh, definitely. While there was a good amount of humor in Tangled, I feel like Frozen did a really good job of having humor that appealed to both kids and adults. You know what I mean? They had I feel like they had more of a good balance. Where I feel like Tangled, the humor is more so geared towards adults in a way. But I feel like in Frozen, the first one, it was definitely a good balance of okay. We're going to make the kids laugh, but we're also going to give something here for the adults as well.
I feel that, yeah. This is one where we disagree a little bit because you think Frozen is better than Tangled. I'm the other way around.
Yeah.
Right? I loved Tangled so much.
I think.
Here's the question. Where does Moana, because just before we go into Frozen 2, where do you think Moana lands of those three?
2.
So Frozen, Moana, Tangled?
Yeah, for sure. Again, I love Tangled, but if I had to rank them, yeah, that's definitely how I go.
Interesting. I think right now I would say, I might say Moana, Tangled, Frozen, but
whoa,
yeah,
okay.
I think I would. I love Moana so much. So for people who haven't seen it yet, Frozen 2 kind of takes place 3 years after Frozen started. The kingdom of Arendelle is really everything's going great. People are happy. Things are just fa la la, just wonderful. And then Elsa's been hearing this singing and kind of like a siren almost, and it's kind of like her call to adventure. The town or the kingdom is kind of frozen, it's in danger, and then Elsa, Anna, Kristoff, Olaf, and Sven, they all have to leave the kingdom basically into this mystical, magical forest to try to figure out where Elsa's powers came from and save the kingdom. But yeah, so the movie opens with this really sweet flashback to when Elsa and Anna are little and they are with their parents and they're going to bed and their mother sings them a song that's kind of this really cool thematic song that talks about the origins of Arendelle and how, at least in the song, the people who had founded that kingdom had kind of made a partnership with the indigenous people of that region and kind of started building from there. So that kind of comes into play later. But then it's like flash forward again. The kingdom is happy, and it's the song, the Some Things Never Change, and which is one of my favorite Disney songs. It's just so good. Like the piano's amazing. It has such a opening number Broadway quality where you immediately establish all of the characters within one stanza. You're like, this is where Elsa is in her life right now with the tone of how she's singing and everything. Oh, Kristoff wants to propose to Elsa or to Anna. He wants to propose to Anna.
Maybe her too. We don't know.
Yeah, maybe her too. Anna is just loving. Anna's holding on. She's trying to figure out what's constant in her life because everything around her seems to be changing, and she loves Arendelle so much. And Elsa is feeling kind of drawn away a little bit, and which kind of comes into play more from the kingdom. She doesn't feel quite right. And then they just have this amazing number where all of the people are just singing together. It's really fun.
I liked the song. It was fun. Lots of information in a fun way, which is a really good way of like summing up the past 3 years in like 2.5 minutes. But to me, extremely forgettable. I didn't remember the song until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
In the podcast.
I mean, I loved it.
Everyone that I know loves the song and they talk about more. But to me, it was just like, oh, it's a good song. Next.
I just realized. So the next song that kind of comes in is Into the Unknown. And
is it? Is that the next one?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think that's the next song because that's when
that came later. Oh, maybe. Actually, maybe you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Into the Unknown. That's kind of what people were thinking would be like the next Let It Go song. Mm-hmm. And you were saying it's better than Let It Go.
Oh, miles better.
And I agree
because Let It Go it's catchy, great animation with it. It became a cultural phenomenon. Totally get it. But to me, like, Into the Unknown, like, taps into, like, your inner soul. Like, it, like, talks about, like, the future of not knowing what's next, not knowing what's going to happen, and being fearful of it, but also being excited about it and, like, being drawn to it. It's like this tug and pull of, like, emotions. And I think that's a lot of the movie as a whole is, like, it dealt with a lot of complicated emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
Whether that was like the complicated relationship between siblings, the complications of misunderstandings between romantic relationships, and then just relationships in general, righting the wrongs of your family's past.
Right.
There's just so many like complicated emotions that they deal with throughout the movie that it didn't even feel like an animated movie to me.
Yeah.
It felt like, it was like a real, like, well thought out, like, written storyline.
Totally.
But it was an animated form. And then when they did use animation at certain points in the movie, it felt magical. It felt exciting. Like I was saying before, like, during the Into the Unknown number, I felt chills.
Yeah.
I felt goosebumps. There's a chill down my spine. Especially the scene, the second or third verse where Elsa is like in a black background. She's making all these like amazing formations and things with her hands. I felt like a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, man.
Just filled with awe and wonder and excitement. It was just unreal.
Yeah,
and I felt it was just so well done.
Goosebumps most of the movie for me too.
Because it appealed to the inner kid in yourself with this amazing magic and special effects. You know?
Yeah.
But it also hit you as an adult, like in your inner soul, where it's talking about this complex emotion of being fearful of what's next, but also being drawn to it, being excited for it as well.
Totally.
So, just miles and miles ahead of Frozen 1, in my opinion. And then the majority of animated movies in that respect as well.
Yeah, really, really good. So, going back to that archetypal story structure. Archetypal.
We're definitely going to get Jordan Peterson on board at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
That has to happen.
For sure. Like with all of that hero's journey, all of those themes, I'm kind of realizing now that the Some Things Never Change song in Frozen 2 it has a lot of similarities to, like, I think it's called Who We Are or Where We Are or something like that in Moana, where her dad is singing to her about the island and all of the great things about this place, and which is really similar to what particularly Anna is singing about, where like things are great, like I love this place, like all the like things are going well, like even amidst of change and stuff. But then in both movies, there's something drawing them away from that and helping them. And so, yeah, you're right, how they deal with that thematically. So then they also have like the call to adventure in both of their stories where they have to leave, they have to put it behind, and then how do they deal with it? And what's kind of interesting about Frozen 2 is that she brings along some of the people. She doesn't leave the entire town behind. She actually brings some of the people with her, like
Yes.
Anna and Kristoff. But those dynamics change. Like, how do you... Anna's really valuing the structure and, like, I guess in some ways the safety and the normalcy of the life in the kingdom. Kristoff's just trying to find, like, romantic love and, like, make that work. And so, like, how do you balance those relationships with all of that?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Frozen 2 had everything that Frozen 1 lacked.
Okay, go on. Explain.
Like with Frozen, it's fun, it's exciting. Everyone loves the movie. It's a fun movie just to, like, you know, it's a cold winter night, got nothing to do, grab a blanket, grab some cocoa,
Yeah.
get the fireplace going, you know, snuggle up with your girl. You watch, have a fun time watching Frozen, right?
Right.
But there's not that much. There's some depth, but, like, not enough. Especially for an adult audience. Whereas I feel like, you know, this Frozen 2 actually felt like it was geared towards an adult audience rather than, like, a kid audience.
Weirdly so. I felt like there was a lot of that.
It kind of felt that way to me. They definitely explore a lot of complex things that I don't think a 10-year-old would fully grasp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know what to go into as far as detail wise, but, like, it didn't feel like it was meant for kids. It also felt like it was meant for people our age.
Agreed.
You know?
I totally agree.
Yeah, I think Frozen 2 was definitely an example of how to do a sequel movie for sure.
People who are going to see, who haven't seen it, like, please, like, pay attention to the themes in the music and how...
Yes,
and
absolutely.
the wardrobe, like, what people are wearing. It's also intentional. Like, it's really amazing to watch. And from a musical perspective, it's so fun to see. Like, you have all these themes. I think there are almost melodic reprises of things like Do You Want to Build a Snowman?
Very subtle, but
Yeah,
they're placed in there.
they're
If you
subtle.
look from, they're there.
Yeah, but they kind of, like, take a left or right turn and go a little bit different with it. But so you have those to kind of throw back to the first movie, but then you have some of the songs later reprise the new songs in these really crazy ways, like where they juxtapose and work together so well. And then, like, how, for example, like, Elsa's wardrobe changes. Like,
Yes.
her hair goes from kind of, like, braided to now it's, like, totally, like free flowing and just, like, I don't know, subtle things like that. Like, please pay attention to, because it's so exciting to see how they
Animation
do it.
did a very good job with detail.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of movies that really encapsulate the fall, like autumn, like the seasonal changes. And I think they did that so well. And I think part of it is because I really appreciate it because we grew up in Minnesota and we have all 4 seasons and all of that jazz. But just, like, the colors of the leaves are incredible. And then just, like, how they portray nature in the movie is so cool. Like, when they go into the forest and it's just misty and the overcast light and the clouds are a little bit different, and that's so great. I think they nailed that.
Like I was saying before, the audio cutoff was, like, you know, in Frozen 1, you had only a couple different locations for the story to take place. It was either you were in the city, or you were in Anna's ice castle, or you were in the snow in the mountains. That was it.
Right.
Here, you have the springtime in the city during the daytime. You have nighttime in the city. You have the fall, you know, in the woods. You have, you know, kind of a springtime look in the woods.
Right.
You have nighttime in the ocean. You have daytime in the ocean. You have
Right.
the other ice castle on it. And you have some different locations, but the detail in the animation was never wavering. It was always there.
Oh man, totally. And, like, I love all of those details. And I know you always are looking for that type of thing too, like in music and movies, like
Absolutely.
where those inspirations would be coming from, like whether it's like a cultural thing or just like from a different movie. There's all sorts of, like, really cool inspirations that I feel like we hopefully, like, both notice in them. The food, like, they only show it for a minute, but it really inspired me. Like, seeing, like, the type of food that was in Frozen 2 made me want to go to my enormous, like, Magnus Nielsen Nordic cookbook that's like 700 pages and, like, start learning about that, because my family kind of hails from that, like, Nordic region primarily, like Sweden and stuff. And it's like, oh man, like, look at all these, like, cool, like, vibrant dishes and, like, the clothing patterns and stuff. Like, I would love to be able to identify those more and kind of know where they come from. So I really appreciated that too. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah, for sure. I love the movie so much, but I know for a fact that, like, people are not going to appreciate it the same.
Yeah.
You know, because people don't give good sequels the credit they deserve.
Yeah.
And it's just, I know this, to me, this one was so like years beyond what Frozen 1 was.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, it's just frustrating because I feel like people who saw Frozen are like, oh, it's a sequel. Nah, they're going to pass on it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm screaming like, no, go see it. Go see it. It's so much better. It's so great. Yeah, the songs aren't as catchy. But you know what?
Yeah.
Like, if you actually understand like music theory and like actually go through the lyrics, it's such a better song.
It's super impressive. I love it.
All the music is so much better. Even the song at the end.
Which one?
Oh, Show Yourself.
Yeah.
Unreal, dude.
Yeah.
Like, okay, and I think this will actually play into my critique. So that song, Show Yourself with Aurora. So another great example of how to build a song, both lyrically and instrumentally. Just a great build with it. At the end, where it's revealed that Elsa is the fifth spirit.
Yes.
Like again, literal like shivers and like chills when she like her gets a new dress and she realizes who she is. She just like comes into that fully. It's like, oh my god, this is such a great way to like wrap up the synopsis of the movie. Yeah, it's like not gonna be as catchy for like a 10-year-old to sing, obviously. But like
but that's a good thing. Like,
but so what?
Challenge it. Like it's a little more understated of a song.
Yes.
Like it builds more. It literally Into the Unknown only has 2 choruses the whole time, and then it has this really interesting kind of outro bridge thing that's just different.
It's so different.
Like the Panic in the Disco version at the end of the movie, they have
God bless Britton Urie.
yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like of course it's a great hook or whatever, so they do that actual chorus maybe once or twice more than in the movie. But like in the movie itself, like it builds much differently and it's more understated. And one thing I liked about the instrumentation, because it kind of has similar instrumentation, like a lot of it's piano driven and with those vocals that are really cool. But they have some really interesting, I don't know what instruments they used, but like when they were in the forest and it'd be like like kind of like creepy, like creaking, like crackling, like strange sounds, like when Olaf is singing that song. Yeah, I don't know what the instruments were either, but it was kind of cool because it had this kind of creepy, eerie vibe to it a little bit.
Yeah.
And that kind of played through the whole thing too. And I don't know what that was, but I liked that a lot.
Yeah. Let's talk low points of the movie.
Okay, yeah, because right now we're just singing the praises of it.
Well, then deservingly so.
Deservingly so.
I feel like this is not even as much of a critique really, but the humor in the movie I thought was great throughout. But if you're going with the intention of having your kids laugh, I think they'll laugh, but like not nearly as much as they did in Frozen 1. So again, I feel like this movie was geared towards adults. Not there's any like sexual innuendo humor at all.
There was a little bit actually.
Was there?
Yeah, when Kristoff and Anna are in the sleigh, there's a few jokes in there.
Oh, I don't remember any of those. But I just feel like I don't know. Here's my main critique of the movie, and there's a couple other ones as well. But my main one is if you're going into this movie hoping your kids will love it, I think you're gonna love it because it's Frozen, not because of the movie. Does that make sense?
Like in time they'll appreciate it as the movie, but right now they just are into it because they recognize the characters and the basic story.
Not necessarily. I don't. It's just not meant for kids, in my opinion.
Interesting. I don't know, man. My youngest sister is 10, and she loved the movie. She seemed like she was really engaged in it.
But does she love it because it's Frozen, or does she love it because it's a good movie?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like
I think it's love it because it's Frozen, not because it's a good movie. Does that make sense?
But we both, just to be clear, we both think it's a good movie, though, right? Like,
right.
But you'd think that the kids aren't looking at it from. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I didn't get that perspective, but
that's my perspective. Not that it matters necessarily for parents who just want to get their kids out of the freaking house, but
yeah,
that's my main critique of it.
Okay.
Because if their goal was trying to like capitalize on hitting the young, kid audience, I think they missed that mark. But as far as making a quality film, couldn't have done a better job.
Yeah, and I appreciated they had some really, and they did this pretty well in Frozen, but in Frozen 2, I think they tried to do this again and succeeded pretty well. They dealt with some like tricky topics, and I applauded them. Like, like the whole indigenous peoples thing, like super complex, and I don't think anyone can approach it and handle it perfectly, but I really respected that they tried to do it in a way that was
not even a macro scale though, even like a micro scale, like just a relationship between like Anna and Kristoff, relationship between Anna and Elsa, like
totally
there is a very complex issues and emotions going on in those relationships that they had to tackle, and they did it in a very interesting way,
right?
You know,
and
they didn't necessarily resolve all the issues there, but they kind of opened this dialogue in your head, like, oh, I wonder what would happen in the next installment if they had one, how that relationship would have progressed, you know?
Yeah. And I think
very interesting.
Agreed. And I think Kristoff is a great character too. I think he comes into his own a little bit more in this too. Like, he's like an incredibly confident character. Like but you see his insecurities play out a little more in this one. He has insecurities, but he like in other ways he's very secure. When he comes near the end and saves Anna, then he's like, what do you need from me? Like he's not trying to be like, let me save the day for you. Like how can I help you?
I help you?
Yeah, huge, super profound, and really cool that like they put that in there. And I don't know, just like he was like confident in his role in that situation and didn't try to become like something else that he wasn't supposed to be.
He was the hero, but not in the hero that most guys would think they have to be the hero.
Right. Like he played an integral part, but he didn't need to be the star of it in a way. He had like the very emotional love song where which
I thought was a low light of the movie.
You didn't like that? Okay.
Nah.
I listened to it back.
It dragged on too long. I wasn't into it.
Fair. What do you think of him as a character overall? Because he's
a great character. I just thought that song was not needed.
Okay.
Didn't add to anything for me.
I liked it.
I think it was like shorter and like was a little more lighthearted. I would have liked it more.
Yeah. Have you listened back to it just from like the soundtrack?
It's about the same.
Okay. I felt that more when I was watching it, and then when I listened back, I liked the song more. One thing I didn't like, the one critique, was I was watching it, and it's fun. It kind of has like Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen vibes a little bit. Like,
yeah, I didn't like that.
Very throwback. But at the end, I'm like, they're gonna undercut it. They're gonna undercut the whole thing. He's all like emotional. He's going hard. Jonathan Groff, I think is his name. Jonathan Groff, yeah.
I have the cast right here. Yep.
So and just side note, he played King George III in Hamilton, and he was like one of the star people, and like he absolutely killed it. He had 2 songs, I think just 2, maybe like one reprise or something too, but he was just incredible in it. And I didn't even realize, like my siblings told me after I had watched Frozen that he was doing that. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I absolutely loved him. But anyways, the whole time he was singing that love song in the forest, I was like, they're gonna undercut it. They're gonna somehow like kind of embarrass or whatever, like that he had this big emotional moment, and that's exactly what they did. I'm like, can we find another way to transition scenes without just the person just observing an emotional moment and then just being uncomfortable with it? Like,
sure,
that happens in so many movies, like movies that I like, and it's like, can we please like get creative with this, try a different way?
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And that's why I was in my head the whole time. I'm like, they're gonna do something like that. And so the first time I was watching it, I didn't enjoy it as much.
Another low light for me of the movie, another critique, if you will. So at the end, when it's revealed that Elsa is actually the 5th spirit, in the moment I was like, yeah, like I was like excited, like goosebumps. I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Then I left the theater, I was like, oh, that's kind of dumb. Like, no, but like in the moment, it's like amazing. It's like, oh, she's a person she's been looking for her whole life.
Right.
But I thought about it, I was like, meh.
Yeah, like, you're the 5th element.
It didn't change how I thought about the movie as a whole.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Is that kind of anticlimactic?
Or
kind
maybe.
of this,
it might
like
be.
You're the person you search for your whole life. It's like, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But like, still anticlimactic in a way.
Kinda, a little bit. Yeah, it is a little bit dumb that she's like the 5th element, because one of the elements is water. So it's like you're another state of one of, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, not like, it wasn't like a terrible way to do it. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Like, I guess I don't know how else they would go about doing that story, ending it that way, but like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel that.
I don't hate it. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel
left
that
a
for
neutral
sure.
taste in my mouth, if you will.
I thought it was cool. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So, the way they deal with kind of that trickier topic of how Arendelle was founded. They kind of give this backstory where Elsa and Anna's great grandfather was, I guess, the king, and he had made this. At least in that initial song, they had made a treaty with them, and they had built a dam as kind of like a show of peace and partnership. And then as the movie progresses, you find out that it actually wasn't a partnership. It really just benefited the king, and he kind of had betrayed the other leader. And Anna realizes that what needs to happen to make things right and to help these people who have been hurt and disenfranchised by this king, they have to tear down the dam. But in doing so, that puts Arendelle in danger. The water's going to come crashing down the mountain, and it might destroy. But they handled it really interesting. Like Elsa realizes that she's the fifth the fifth element or whatever. Yeah. They destroy the dam, but then she puts up this incredible like ice wall that like stops the water from cascading and just tidal waving the entire kingdom. And I thought that was interesting because I was thinking, part of me was like, destroy the whole thing, like tear it all down.
You know, I was thinking that.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking that.
I wanted that. I thought that would be really cool. But then I was like, that's probably a good way to handle it. Like I thought that was like, okay, like
no, I didn't mind that part.
Everything.
That part didn't bother me.
Yeah, some way of like, I don't know. I thought that was cool how they did that. I think that was really nice.
Yeah. No, I also thought that Anna. Well, yeah, Anna becoming queen and then Elsa like living with the forest people. Mm-hmm. Like that kind of made sense to me. Like how they ended it. Like it wasn't like a super like everything's perfect ending, but it was like, oh, this is like a, you know, there is like a good feeling about it, even though it's like, oh, they're not together all the time, but like a good feeling that they found where they're supposed to be.
Agreed.
You know?
Agreed.
So yeah. Any more lowlights you want to add to it, or?
Those were kind of I didn't have many. Oh, one thing I wanted to say.
Go.
First, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Josh Gad, like who plays Olaf in the movie? Like, what do you think of his? How do you like Olaf? Because I really liked his song that he had in this.
Well,
movie.
like the thing about Olaf is like he's there for mostly comedic relief. Like he's not like a character. Like he's a snowman. Like he has
yes.
You know what I mean? Like, but like he's not. I don't think he's not supposed to have an arc of some sort. He's kind of just there to like help the characters on their journey and kind of bring some comedy when it's needed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any feelings one way or the other. He did what he's supposed to do.
I feel like
it was cool.
I've listened to him singing his various songs through these two movies a lot, and the more I've been listening to him, the more I think that he's developed a quintessential Disney voice character.
Okay.
Like as you know, I have one of my dreams my entire life. I would love to voice like a Pixar or Disney character at some point.
Just give it time. You will.
Yeah, I really want to. I think it'd be so fun. But when you listen, and maybe I'm wrong, but from my perspective, I think that the great Disney movies, like listen to the nuances in the characters' voices. Like people will always do like a caricature of various people in these movies, but the more you listen to them, like when they talk in different ranges, the tone of their voice changes. So for like Olaf, for example, he can sometimes even have like this kind of lower gravelly voice in certain spots, and then he'll have like kind of like a raised soft palate, like kind of like comedically, but he'll sing kind of Broadway opera-y, and then he'll have kind of like a soft voice like that, and he just has all these like dynamic elements to his voice. And the more I've been listening to it, the more I've just been blown away by how good he is in doing that voice. It's just amazing. Yeah,
I mean, he is definitely one of the most recognizable characters and voices in Disney for sure. At this point, he is.
Yeah.
I just like he's a funny character.
Yeah.
He's important to the movie, and he's a great comedy relief. He helps the characters to their journey through finding themselves. But other than that, I mean, that's just all he is to me.
Yeah. I liked how he kind of he kind of told the truth of the scene a lot throughout the movie.
He was definitely much more blunt.
He was
much more direct.
Yeah,
with his thoughts on what's happening around him.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Which was in a way refreshing, actually. Yeah. But anyways, guys, Frozen 2, if you haven't seen it,
definitely recommend.
Go see it. If you're one of those people who like, oh, it's animation, I'm adult, I don't see that.
Give it a shot.
Screw you, because you're wrong.
Do some stretching, drink some water. Like, just try forcing yourself to smile for like 5 or 10 minutes. You'll be in a better place. Wear something comfy and then go watch it. That'll help you be in like a better place. Maybe drink something warm. Like, you'll be set. And then just give it a shot. I think you'll like it.
If you don't want to see it, oh, it's a kids movie, it's animation, I want to see it. No, like, this might be the animation movie that changes the way you think about animation movies, to be honest.
Yeah. Honestly,
so,
I feel that for sure.
Yeah, go see it. Go check it out.
We're recording this December 29th, 2019. But we're about to go into a whole new decade. And so we were thinking like the 2010s and recap. What are we looking forward to? 2020s. And so I was doing research. And one thing that kind of just blew me away was like you ever watch the Oscars or like an award show? Yeah. Like I've always loved those types of shows for whatever reason.
I watch the Grammys every year.
Yeah. So we're similar in that way. And one thing I always notice is I'm like, oh, I haven't seen almost any of these movies. Like almost every year I'm like, oh, I didn't listen to those albums. Like, oh, I didn't see that movie that won Best Picture. I don't think I've seen one of the movies that won Best Picture for years. Yeah. And I always feel kind of like out of the loop. And I was watching all of these recaps on like various news outlets and on YouTube and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, like from current events to just the types of albums that came out in the movies. I'm like, I didn't see that many of these things. Like I wasn't in the loop for a lot of, I don't know, maybe it's just it was the selections that were brought forth, but.
And I actually have a theory on why you feel that way though.
Please.
Because I think this has been the fastest moving decade in the history of the world.
So much happened.
Like
the internet, I think, is a major part of that.
Literally, you have access to any and all information at our fingertips, 24/7, 365 days a week.
It sounds magical. There's like some incredibly smart people who have built on the shoulders of the people, and then a lot of us are just like experiencing, like reaping all these like strange rewards of what they've done. Yeah. Like it's incomprehensible in a lot of ways, and there's not enough time. Even in a tiny span like 10 years, like so many things happened. But then again, maybe we're just we are growing accustomed to a different way of like thinking. Like I was watching some like a compilation of news clips that happened from around the world. I'm like, in 200 years ago, you would hear it was like, what is happening in your town? And that's pretty much it. Like I don't know if we have the capacity in our brain to handle the amount of like from revolutions to like shifts in power to all these like cultural changes. Like it's just so many things going into our brains all at once. I don't think we can handle it.
We're not supposed to.
I don't know if we're supposed to.
Like, are we supposed to handle this much information, Ken? I
don't know. That's like the huge debate, right? It's like, do you like? There's always the people who turn off their phones and then just live, like not nomadic, but a very different life.
But isn't that how we're supposed to live?
In certain respects,
none of us are ever gonna do it.
No,
but it's not. But like,
I mean, it's probably how we're wired. Like from just looking at how our species just has come into being. Yeah. I
think the 2010s will be the time in history where people look back on it in like 500 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think people look back at this particular decade and be like, this is where the information internet age really took off. Yeah. Because I think every decade after this one will be the same growth rate of like technology, of innovation, of information. Yeah. But like it'll keep progressing like it has been in this decade and even faster than that. Think about social media. Like people had like most people had Facebook our age. Yeah. But like it wasn't like as big of a deal. Mm-hmm. But like Instagram didn't come around to like what, we were juniors, seniors.
I think at least when people started using it, yeah.
I mean, Twitter was a thing, but no one was really on it until like later in high school.
Dude, I actually remember when I was I think it might have even been when I was in 8th grade, so this would have been a little bit earlier, but my parents were, I think, earlier adopters of Facebook and Twitter. Yeah. And I always made fun of them for that. I was like, oh, you're on social media. What is, you nerds?
But now it's like...
Yeah, and then it's really changed.
Now 10-year-olds are on social media. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
Wildly different.
Wild. Crazy.
Do you have I don't really have any predictions for 2020 for the 20s, the roaring 20s. I don't know what I don't really have any idea what it's going to be like.
I think it's going to be in a lot of ways a reflection of what happened in the 1920s and the fact that technology, because think about this for a second. Like I'm pretty sure, maybe we can Google this in a second, but like I'm pretty sure the first films, the first like American films came out in the 20s, right?
Yeah, I
think about that for a second.
I think you're right, because I think my parents are like black and white movie nerds, and so I saw a lot of those really really old movies. So like Buster Keaton, like silent movie comedy type, Charlie Chaplin type things. And I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm looking at some of these pictures. I'm almost positive that in the 20s is kind of when those things started to actually be seen in theaters. I don't think they were doing that in the 10s.
Motion pictures started coming out in the 20s.
Yeah. And a lot of radio theater. That was kind of like, I think that was when that was starting too.
I mean, the first anime, color films came out in the 30s, I'm pretty sure.
I think it was later than that.
No.
30s?
Yeah.
Okay, so according to Google, so it looks like, I think it was 1939 Wizard of Oz came out. So you're right, actually. So
I'm always right, Ken.
Yeah, so so it was Technicolor, but I think that was kind of one of the more rare things. And then you were saying 60s, it was when more like TV it was more common to have actual like color TV.
Right.
Yeah, 60s, maybe 70s.
I mean, it's clear that what defines social media is the 2010s, right?
Right.
Or, sorry, earlier on. The 2010s were defined by social media.
Yes.
So, whether it be the way we use our phones, everyone has a phone where you don't use the buttons anymore like we did when we were in middle school. Everyone's got the keypad on the screen.
Yep.
Everyone's doing the selfies. Everyone's, on Twitter. Everyone's on YouTube. Everyone's on Instagram. Everyone's on Facebook. Everyone's on it 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So I think as a result of that, there's going to be a lot more collaboration in the 2020s between different companies, between different people on how we, advance the mediums of, entertainment, how we advance the mediums of media, how we get information across other people. We've already seen it with how we transfer money, whether it be, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a continuation of that. I also think the way we, laptops are going to change. I think phones are going to continue to change. I mean, we saw the Cybertruck from Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be another rebirth of that in the 2010s of just the medium of what we do changes. VR is becoming a lot more popular.
Yeah.
I think that'll be something that actually might happen like theaters in a way. We already have people who are doing theaters where it's like they have surround sound like behind your ears, stuff like that. Or like just if it's a loud like rumbling sound and like the movie, the theater actually like shake a little bit. They're already experimenting with that in like AMC.
That's cool.
So yeah, man, I just think that.
And that could be a whole nother category in a filmmaking industry.
Exactly.
The more like tangible, experiential elements of it.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
So I think that's what's going to happen in 2020s. There's going to be more and more of that just progressing along.
One thing I was thinking, I think the 2020s, if I had to guess, I think people are really dumb sometimes. And I think if we have a way to label something, we can sometimes put more meaning into it. And for me anyways, from 2000 to 2019, I never was like, okay, we're in the 2000s. Like, okay, well, you could also say that about like that whole time, you know what I mean? Or like 2010s is kind of clunky. It's not really tens, it's teens. But I think 20s, like literally just being able to say we're in the 20s will have an effect. And I know that sounds dumb, but like I literally...
Oh, no, I agree with you.
I literally think it'll be like...
you.
I don't know. I think that there might be something even from like clothing and style and fashion to movies and culture and everything. I think that now that we're in a spot where we can say, oh yeah, that's such a 20s look.
Yeah.
I think it might, with what you're saying, that reflection, I think it'll kind of compress things a little bit in an interesting way and like bring forth, like being able to name it, I think is important for people. So
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I could see that happening.
For sure. Honestly, I think the election of Trump was the most defining moment.
Maybe it was I could say that might be a culmination of a lot of things that happened over that time.
And that's why I think it was the most defining moment.
That's interesting.
I think it was definitely a polarizing moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
It kind of divided the country into two different fractions, but I think in a weird way, almost united the country in a way. Because I think
in the surprise of it, maybe.
Not even just the surprise of it, but like, I think the polarization from the two sides. I think people are starting to slowly realize like how people are like on the opposite spectrums, how little they are. Like
the major disagreements, there are smaller groups of people, and then when you actually talk with people, even if they identify left or right or whatever, they seem to have more in common than it is apparently they do or whatever on social media.
Yeah, like like on Twitter, I think there's a stat like this where it's like, it's Jack Dorsey tweeted out. It's like 2% Twitter make 80% of the noise.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
So to me, I think at the end of the decade, realizing, like the super right and the super left, that's like a minority population. We're like 80% of the people in this country are actually in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And they might have a slight lean towards one or the other, but I think most people in this country are like actually in the middle.
Yeah.
Like moderate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What I'm about to say has been said by so many people, but I think it's worth repeating. I think the more people just have conversations, I think the more that type of problem will be solved. I literally just had a conversation recently with my family about politics, and it was interesting. There were definitely awkward parts, and I was like, I don't really want to be talking about this. I just like, part of me is like, just let it be. Like, you're not going to convince anybody one way or the other. This is kind of uncomfortable. It feels negative. But part of me is like, you don't have to talk with we're not talking about Frozen 2 so I can convince you to like the Kristoff song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just like expressing how we feel and finding common ground and just enjoying the conversation. But I think people are very out of practice talking with each other, particularly about things that are uncomfortable. And so we primarily see like the bubbling up and then like the explosion of someone saying something really outrageous or unmeasured, not particularly thoughtful. Like what you're saying about only 2% of the people make however many percent of the comments. Like some people are just going crazy and just saying so much. And a lot of people are like trying to process it, but we don't talk about it person to person enough. And because we're out of practice, that grows, and we have to work through the awkwardness and just be comfortable talking about these things.
And that's why podcasting is so popular.
I think
because there's a craving, there's a need for long form discussions, right? Because think about the presidential debates, right?
Yeah.
It's just, here's a presidential candidate who's going to be leading the free world, right? I don't really agree with that statement. It's kind of no, I don't agree with that. But here's a person about to be the president of the United States, right?
Yeah.
And they have 20 seconds to say what they think about a big issue.
Right.
That's not realistic.
No, it's not.
And that's why when people, like, for example, on Joe Rogan, when Bernie Sanders or Tulsi Gabbard go on that podcast, people are like, oh, okay, I kind of get his views now.
Right.
I may not agree, I might disagree, but at least I know for sure, where I stand on this issue, and I understand his perspective now.
Right.
Whereas when Bernie's on stage and he has like 40 seconds to say what he thinks about healthcare,
right.
Come on, that's not enough time. He needs to flesh out an actual thought. So I agree
with that for sure. It's too compressed. It's too quick. You can't express big thoughts that quickly very often. You can't do it.
And this is why TV is slowing down, and this is where a lot of Andrew Schultz ideas come to play in my worldview. But this is why TV is dying. This is why radio is dying, because it's not the content that people want anymore. And this new mediums where we're doing long form podcasts, where YouTube is becoming the driving force instead of TV. I think we're gonna see that completely turn around on its head and come to full fruition in 2020. I think that the streaming wars will be much less contentious at the end of the 2020s. I think like Disney and like Netflix are gonna like buy these like other streaming services at some point.
Interesting.
And I think that like eventually it's gonna be at a point where like you get a cable like package deal for all these streaming services.
Yeah.
And I go back to cable.
That's funny.
And like I know like a few like people were saying that like bringing predictions like Schultz and a couple like comedians were making that prediction. But I definitely see that end of the 2020s that you might see these streaming wars kind of like come to a halt.
Yeah, interesting.
So,
My sister, right before I left for this, my little sister, she's 10, and she was like, I was like, oh, I'm going to go talk to Baeza about Frozen 2. She's like, oh, really? And she was like so excited. She was actually very much like Anna in a lot of ways, which is adorable.
Yeah.
But she was just like so like filled with joy, like talking about it. And then she was like, so do you think on like TV remote controls, do you think that Disney Plus is going to replace the Hulu button on those remote controls for TV? I'm like, what?
oh, that's thinking. That's very forward thinking for a girl her age.
Yes, you're 10. How?
That's very forward thinking.
Right? And I was like, man, that's actually a loaded question. I mean, yeah, probably. And she's like, well, I think.
Yeah, probably.
She's like, I think the Netflix button will stay because, you know, obviously Disney Plus has a lot of content, but Netflix has a lot of things for people to watch besides the Disney world. I'm like, yeah, I think
Can't
you're
you do
right.
a podcast?
Yeah, let's guest star. So what do you think? Do you have a favorite musical artist or album that from the 2010s that really did it for you? Like, or
okay.
a couple? Like,
So,
it doesn't have to be just one.
I've been thinking about this. So I think I couldn't narrow it down to just one, but I think there are a few artists who definitely define the 2010s.
Okay.
One being, of course, Her Majesty, Taylor Swift.
Yep. That's
You also
so
like to say Beyonce. No, I didn't say Beyonce. Taylor Swift, all right? That's a different conversation for another day, all right?
That is a different conversation.
But I think she definitely defined the 2010s. I mean, 1989 is probably going to be... And I think actually, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll say this. I think 1989 is the album that defined the 2010s, along with Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. Who I think is the other artist who defined the 2010s. I mean, if you just look at what our other artists did after those albums came out, I mean, they were just direct inspiration off of those pieces of work. I think another artist for me who defined the 2010s is Drake. Because, I mean, he was clearly, other than like maybe Kanye for a couple years or I don't know who else, but I think Drake was like the number one hip hop artist every year.
Incredible. Yeah, he had,
for that whole entire decade, right?
There's some stat about how long he's had a song on the Billboard 200, and it's mind blowing. He beat out the Beatles a while ago, and it's just been consistent for years.
Yeah. If I say which artists,
what about
Taylor Swift, Kanye, Drake, maybe Ed Sheeran as well.
Oh, I was about to say Ed Sheeran. I think.
Yeah.
I might put Kendrick on there as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was looking. Some of those lists had 2 or 3 of his albums at least in the top however many albums of the year.
Let's talk TV shows and movies of the decade, and let's wrap it up.
Well, one that was big so when we were renting the Gatsby estate last year, we watched a lot of New Girl. I think that was a great TV show.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think that was I think that was kind of like the Friends in a lot of ways of the 2010s.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't. I don't think it reached the popularity.
It wasn't. No.
But the cult following of New Girl is very, very strong.
Yeah, and
very strong.
I think it was incredibly written. I thought it was so good.
Also, I think it was a example of a show that didn't like overrun its course.
No, yeah, they kind of left when they should have left, and they did great.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, the biggest show of the 2010s is Game of Thrones.
You're right.
I mean, this just
it's hard to really compare other shows in terms of the fans and the scope of it. Grandiose.
Game of Thrones literally ruined TV for me because no other show compares to it. You know how much Game of Thrones means.
You love Game of Thrones. That's another show that we watched like crazy when we were at Gatsby Estate. I forced you
to watch the whole show.
Yes, all 7 seasons. We binged that in what would it have been, like 3 months, something like that.
No, less than that.
Less than that.
We binged that in like 2 months.
Maybe 2 months. Yeah, just in time to start. So yeah, we would go to the library. We would go to the library, we'd get the DVDs, then we would watch through all of them, and then keep on doing that just over and over and over again. And then we would watch just in time for the season 8, the final one. Yeah. So fun. Literally had a huge impact on my life, changed the way I saw the world. Wow. I think that's different podcasts at a different time, but that show means a lot to me, and I think it was definitely the defining show of the 2010s for sure.
Movies of the 2010s.
One thing that I saw in a couple different lists that I was looking at before this, Mad Max Fury Road. Have you ever seen that?
Critics love that movie.
Did you? I loved it.
I liked it. I
Did
wasn't
you see it in the theater?
blown away by it. No, I know I didn't watch that in the theater.
I saw it at the
Maybe
Maplewood.
that's why.
That might be it. I literally just saw it in the Maplewood Plaza, which isn't even. It's like a budget theater. It's one of my faves. But I was blown away by it. It was so good. But yeah, that was one that kept making lists that I was seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I noticed that almost no superhero movies made it onto any of the lists that I was looking at, which is kind of goes into what we're saying about. Yeah, I know with sequels and stuff like that.
Again, different talk for another day.
I know that another topic for another show. But I was thinking like, man, some of those movies like changed things. I just loved it, even just for me, but just were so iconic and so fun. And I don't know. I think sometimes critics have a bias towards. Even movies based on previously existing materials, I feel like those types of movies don't generally make, I don't know, make those lists.
What Nolan movies came out in the 2010s?
Nolan?
Yeah.
Dunkirk was a big one. That made...
Yeah, but it wasn't like a defining... I think Interstellar was like the defining movie of the decade for sure.
I actually just watched that recently.
Really good movie.
Yeah, that one was... I felt... after I watched that movie, I just felt like totally overwhelmed and kind of and like existentially frozen for a while. Like I was like, what?
Understandably so.
Oh man, dude, yeah, that movie that's a trip. I don't know. I feel like he comes out with one fairly recently or fairly regularly.
There's Inception, defining movie for sure.
Was that in the 2010s too?
Yeah, that was 2010.
Okay.
I mean, obviously all the Marvel movies. I mean, the whole Infinity saga, I think definitely defined the 2010s.
Well, oh man,
for sure,
100%. So hold up, what year did Iron Man come out?
08.
08. Okay, so just 2 years removed, and then basically all Phase 1 through 3, all of those movies all happened in the 2010s.
It literally defined the decade.
Yeah,
I think crazy. If you want to take a look at if I'm gonna. Let's say I'm 90, and the kid's like, okay, what should I watch to like really understand your generation? Watch the Infinity Saga.
I think it is similar to like how if you asked our parents like what like Star Wars movies, Indiana Jones, like those types of series movies with those types of characters. I think yeah. I think Marvel phases 1 through 3 has got to be up there.
I think two other things that defined the decade were Pixar and Disney and their collaborations, like we were talking about with Frozen and how. There's a kind of new era of Disney being ushered in with the Pixar animation they're using.
Yeah.
So Frozen, Moana, Tangled. So this new era of like Disney films like coming out is gonna be huge in 2020s because it kind of started here in 2010s. Things lead on to 2020s and keep on reinventing itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for the Roaring 20s 2.0 as I'm coining it.
I think it'll be just such a time of growth just personally. I'm really excited for it, and just like maturity and change. I'm really hopeful for that. I'm really excited to be like learning new creative skills and doing all that stuff and like going into the unknown and all that jazz. Like it's so fun.
Well, even with this podcast, we're starting something new where it's like a new adventure we're going into.
Starting it just at the tail end of the 2010s going into the 2020s. That's fun. And
I mean, this episode will probably come out in January, so
this will be early January.
It'd be kind of fun to like go like in 2029 or whatever. We go back and listen to this episode. It'd be like
look back, like oh my gosh,
it'd be crazy. Like look back, look, like we started this way long ago, and look where we are now, and
totally
we'll be 35, which is a scary thought, but that's 10 years in the future. But
I know that's crazy. All right, well, I feel good.
I feel good with the episode, man. I think we did it
too.
Guys.
Perfect.
Thank you for listening. By the time you guys listen to this episode, we'll have our Instagram page, our Twitter page, our YouTube page, all up at The Cook and the Coach Pod. If you guys have questions for us, if you guys have ideas of what we should talk about on the show, you can email us at thecookandthecoachpod@gmail.com. Ken, give me your socials.
KP Martin 2 on Instagram. So KPMartin 2.
You can find me on Instagram at Baeza Tensaya. Again, it's at BaezaTensaie. Feel free to DM me and Ken. If you want us to react to anything, talk about anything, let us know. Thanks for listening, guys. We love you. We'll see you next episode.
Bye.